Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Apophenia can often be very harmless. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, a person may have a psychotic belief that they can communicate with trees, or that if there's a certain pattern in the carpet, it has some significance mm-hmm. for what they need to be doing. Yeah. That would be kind of an extreme example of an apophenic mm-hmm. projection. Some forms of apophenia, though, can be, very destructive.
But some forms of actual synchronicity can be
that's
very
exactly
destructive.
That's right.
That's not apophenia.
That's not just apophenia, but I'll get into that as well. But
okay.
Just looking at apophenia for a second, I've had patients, in fact, who've done things to themselves, or who've even done things to other people mm-hmm. that they wouldn't have done if they weren't in a psychotic state, that were very harmful. Mm-hmm. And they did so because they were projecting something onto those situations that was just baseless.
Well, in the most extreme cases, you have people who believe that God is telling them to commit a murder.
Right, indeed, and those things, those occurrences do happen. Yeah. So that would be an example of an apophenia that is obviously it's untrue, but also it's very destructive. Yes. And so there's going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of a true skeptic is going to try to give a lot of attention to that, to say, well, are you walking down a dangerous road here?
Right. Are you encouraging people
courting? That's right. That's right.
By writing about archetypal synchronistic resonance, are we encouraging religious fanatics to commit murder?
Exactly. That would be a complaint. Yeah. And I would say, no, we're not. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned before, even with what I would consider to be genuine archetypal synchronistic resonant experiences, that is, that I believe these things really happened and that there really was a meaningful link between the events that the people reported, they can sometimes be very destructive.
Well, Dr. Jewel Eisenbud, the late Jewel Eisenbud, was a psychoanalyst who wrote a wonderful book called Parapsychology and the Unconscious.
Yes.
And he described many of his patients having authentic psychic experiences that had a bad ending.
Absolutely.
To them. And what he said is that people who have a subconscious self-destructive impulse, but are also gifted psychically, are at risk because their psychic gifts may come into the service of their self-destructive impulse.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is Corrington discusses this as well in his work, that the divinity that we do find in nature, mm-hmm. It can be somewhat morally ambiguous, at least from a human standpoint. That is, that it can be very destructive. He cites things that we see in extreme cases of psychopathology as examples where it appears as if, for instance, from a certain kind of psychoanalytic viewpoint, it appears almost as if the unconscious is attempting to reabsorb the conscious ego of the person, mm-hmm. which must be a terrifying experience for people going through that.
Like in schizophrenia.
Like in schizophrenia, exactly. Uh-huh. Absolutely. And he would be the first to say that, I think he does discuss how the Jungian collective unconscious is kind of tied into nature, so to speak, into the Jung spoke about the unus mundus, the kind of the unifying reality that brings together mind and matter, and that can either involve experiences that hinder or even destroy or help the person whose experiences they are. So I just wanted to kind of make that point that archetypal synchronistic experiences or apophenic experiences aren't just always harmless things. Sometimes they can be destructive.
They can be destructive, either apophenia or authentic archetypal synchronistic resonance. Yes.